morning, everybody. It's my pleasure to introduce our guest speaker this morning, Mr. Anatalio Ubalde. Anatalio is the CEO of GIS Planning, Inc. GIS Planning Incorporated has been named 5 years in a row to Inc. magazine's 5,000 fastest growing privately held companies in the United States. They have become recognized as the industry standard for web-based economic development platforms for recruitment and business retention. I'm proud to say that when we put together our economic development website at Florida Power and Light, what we call powerinflorida.com, we did a lot of research back in 2012, and easily the winner for that type of platform was GIS Planning and their Zoom Prospector product and Size Up. This was recognized in 2012 when the U.S. Department of Commerce awarded them first and second prize for their Zoom Prospector and Size Up products for growing the U.S. economy and jobs. Among his many other talents, Anatalio has written books on economic development marketing and economic development online. Please help me welcome Anatalio Ubalde.
I'd like to talk about the color blue today. All right. Technology is good. And actually, thank you so much to the staff. I mean, these are the folks who make it all happen, and the support team. So thank you. I really appreciate your help this morning. So I'd like to start with doing a test of the people who are in this room to figure out how well you pay attention. So there's two rules to this test. The first is that there's no talking, so don't interrupt your colleagues. The second thing I'd like you to do is to count how many passes the team in white makes.
This is an awareness test. How many passes does the team in white make?
Go! All right, so by show of hands, raise your hand. How many people saw 10 passes? 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. More than 15. So anything about that that's of any interest? I mean, there was some variation on the number that everybody counted. Anything? Yes, sir.
Man walking across the street.
I don't know what you're talking about. What?
Man in black walking across the street.
The man in black. Did anybody else see? Just you, I guess. So The correct answer.
The answer is 13. But did you see the moonwalking bear?
Thank you. See? So this raises this question. Sorry? You did, oh, so he is distracted, but he paid attention. Well, that's actually part of this, right? So this really raises the question of what it is that we're focusing on. All of us, every day before we go to the office or wherever it is that we're doing what we do, we have a set of things that we need to get accomplished. We're task driven, we've got to get that work done. And we're probably all very good at it. But because we're so focused on those issues, we oftentimes miss larger trends or the things that are happening around us. And in fact, these are oftentimes the greatest opportunities. So I'm going to be talking about innovation, and I think it's good that we start with a definition of what it is. Innovation is the creation of value for customers that either meets new or undiscovered needs or serves old needs in new ways. And there's a lot of confusion about exactly what innovation is. Oftentimes people think, okay, innovation is about being different, but it's absolutely not. Because simply because you're different doesn't mean that you're great or you're the best or that you get success. As a site selector talks about, well, folks, corporate site selection is not Charmin and communities are not Cheerios. It matters little to me or most corporate clients that you believe that you are so unique because of your annual dump truck festival or have the largest stuffed collection of two-headed calves in the world. In fact, those things make us different, but does it matter? The other thing that's important to know about innovation is that it's not about the ideas. We all have ideas. If any of you are like me, you're showering in the morning and you get this great idea, I should do that. If I do that, it's gonna make me millions of dollars. And then what do? Nothing. And then somebody else does it, and then they make all the millions of dollars, and you're like, that could have been me. Anybody else? This has happened to anybody else? Just, I'm one of the few people. Okay, so it's not about the ideas, it's about making the ideas happen. And it's the challenge of adoption and implementation. I think this is something, especially for a lot of the folks who are at these tables, right? It's not just the idea, you're the folks who have to execute on the policies for communities. And I'll give you some tips about getting people to adopt your ideas. The first thing is, no one cares what's in it for you. All they're interested in really is they care about what's in it for everyone else. And they're going to follow the leaders who care about the community and give generously beyond themselves. So if you are generous and you're giving more than the people that you give to could ever give back to you, you are the type of person that we want to follow. You're probably familiar with Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right? At the very base is biological, physiological needs, followed by safety needs, belongingness, esteem, and then at the top is self-actualization, kind of the pinnacle of who we could be as people. I'm going to share Anatalio's hierarchy of economic development innovation needs. At the bottom are the folks who do anything. They say, you know, I've got to look busy, right? I've got to show my boss I'm doing something, but I'm not quite sure what it is that I'm doing. It's ineffective. Then there's do something, and that's for the folks who say, well, of the many things that I've tried, certain things are working better, I'm going to focus on that. Then there's so-called best practices. These are the things that you read about in books and they tell you that you should be doing. Then there's actual best practices, and these are kind of cutting edge ideas, and I'll be talking more about those today. And then at the very top is innovation, and this is where you invent the future. The important thing about innovation is the innovation that you're waiting for is you. You are the ones who are going to create that innovation. If you look in the middle under best practices, this is, you know, as I mentioned, you read the books or people tell you, and this is not just about economic development, What I'm talking about, whether you're an elected official or you're a business person or you're committed to making these communities better, innovation affects all of us. But you read these books and they say, these are the best practices of economic development, or these are the best practices of businesses. But the reality is they're absolutely not the best practices if everybody is doing them. We're all reading the same books. So best practices that we're chasing after are actually average practices. Think about that for a bit. There are a number of radical innovations that have changed the profession of economic development. I don't have enough time to get into all of them. For those who are interested, buy my book on Amazon.com, I guess. But, or we'll somehow, Keith, we'll find some way to get some copies of the book to you at no cost. So I'm going to share a couple of innovation case studies. One comes out of New York, and actually is a picture in your annual report from this organization. And the best practice in economic development at the time was advertise through reach and frequency, right? The traditional way. But this organization, DCI, said, no, don't advertise. Third-party endorsement through media placement is what really matters. And what our research showed is that, in fact, public relations is quite effective. Now, just try and make an explanation of the difference. So marketing, between this guy and this woman, says marketing, I'm a great guy. Advertising, I'm a great guy, I'm a great guy, I'm a great guy. Telemarketing, hello, I'm a great guy. And public relations, trust me, he's a great guy. Okay? Actually, some of these were different comments, but we made it more appropriate for breakfast. So the way that, as a case study, Oklahoma City discovered that there were a lot of Californians in jobs and businesses that were moving to their areas. They figured, how do we tell this story? And so they sent out this email to a number of national journalists saying, we're experiencing, and I'll quote, kind of a reverse grapes of wrath. Right? During the Dust Bowl, Oklahomans went to California. Now these Californians are coming back. And with that catchy kind of story, national news picked it up. US News wrote an article, A Smarter Way to Attract Jobs in Oklahoma. It's probably difficult for you to read this, but it says, during the 30s, waves of Oklahomans moved to California to flee the Dust Bowl and find work. Now the exodus has reversed. So here's national media. National media begets other national media. And the Atlantic says Oklahoma City could represent the future of America. And they specifically cite the grapes of wrath and what's happened many years later. Now, an interesting thing happens when you get national media. Then the local media believes it. And so then it gets picked up locally, saying, oh, we're getting all of this national attention. Now I want to pause on this because this is something that we find and we see everywhere. I travel all across the country working with economic development organizations. And the people that oftentimes are the least able to see the tremendous assets that exist in the community and how successful that they are the locals. You guys, by the way, are the locals. And I hope that you realize, because you just don't see this. There's so many economic development organizations around the country. Team Volusia is punching way above its weight. The level of activity, the projects that you guys are working on, the marketing that you're doing, you typically would find that of organizations that might be 4 or more times the size, or frankly, even what the marketing is what you find some states doing. So you guys are very fortunate, and if you need somebody who had to come all the way from the other coast to tell you that, what you have here is terrific, and you have great leadership. So, yeah, that's right. I think that's... I'll share with you another innovation case study that comes from Michigan. And the best practice in economic development at the time was to target industries. But in fact, targeting industries, there's so many businesses in every industry. It's rather impossible. So what they said is, no, what you have to do is you have to focus on those that are most likely to make a decision that could result in investment. So you narrow down from thousands down to ideally maybe hundreds or dozens. And what they do is they use math. They use, it's called predictive analytics. And they look at key drivers of change, metrics such as sales and employment. And for the mathematicians in the room, they're using multiple variant regression, gradient descent, and matrix algebra to generate predictive analytic algorithms. So that way, instead of spending time on a lot of potentially poor leads, they're able to focus on those that are most optimal. They're trying to correlate changes that businesses are making with the opportunity that they may expand, or they may relocate, or they may consolidate. Share with you another innovation case study, and this one comes from my company, GIS Planning. The best practice at the time for site selection was that it would really hoard, or kind of economic developers would be a broker of information. So business would come to us, and then we would explain to them why they should invest here. But we said, no. What you should do is give valuable data away so businesses will convince themselves to invest, right? A lot of people love to buy, but nobody likes to be sold. So a lot of economic developers are saying, I don't publicly give out information about my community because businesses need to call me so I can explain it to them. And so the strategy of waiting for that call to come because they were the ones with the knowledge didn't work out that well. And the reason is because technology and business have changed. So because they didn't give information out, they didn't get any calls at all. This is a model that has happened across the entire country. And if you're not familiar with what's happening here with Team Volusia, I want to walk you very briefly through what they can do that is on the very cutting edge. So if you go on to volusiasites.com, you can search for available commercial properties. In this case, you can see some examples of properties that match. I did a search just last night of office space over 10,000 square feet, and there were, I can't even see, the font is too small, but there are over 100 properties that match that. I can drill down and see one of the available properties and information about it, right? So what you want to do is you want to reduce the friction. You want to be able to get that business connected to the real estate broker or agent who can do the deal, because it's all about the team effort. The other thing that's important to businesses is the demographics of your community. And in this case, unique to that location, you can know what the demographics are by population, age, income level, educational attainment. And if I'm the type of business that's interested in hiring a number of people with high school education, I can click, and now I know where the areas are where people have high school degrees. I can also identify the businesses that are nearby, because these businesses may be my potential customers or suppliers. And visually I can see that by number of industries. But I can also drill down, if I specifically want to look at where are the architects or engineering offices that make over $4 million a year. Now I can see where they are. If I'm a business that serves these types of companies, I can know where's a better location to locate. So by educating the businesses about why they should be here, they convince themselves. And this is information that you can overlay, such as CRA, or enterprise zones, future land use, and hub zones. So this is the idea where instead of spending maybe an hour driving down to City Hall, instead of getting in line at City Hall, you can just go online and you can get things in minutes. So this is some of the innovation that's happening here with Team Volusia. Here's another innovation case study, which is Richard Florida. He wrote a book called The Rise of the Creative Class. And the idea at the time was that you target businesses. He said, no, it's not about the businesses. It's about the people. And he talked about specific types of people. People who work in creative professions. And the reason is because that is a driving force in the economy. Creative professionals are well paid. They're in a variety of industries. So for example, if we were to think of cars, right? Somebody will say, oh, that's manufacturing. But think of all of the innovation that goes around, I'm just a little silly talking about that here, that goes into making those cars better, faster, more efficient. And he realized that talent, tolerance, and technology are the elements that make for successful communities that attract these highly productive workers. So the question, of course, comes, which came first, the people or the businesses? And in a report from the Martin Prosperity Institute, they looked at this issue. And what they found is that the variation in talent largely explains the variation in regional economic performance. It is your people that make your community successful, even more than the businesses. So as economic developers, we are recruiting businesses, but we also now have to think about recruiting talented people. And in traditional economic development, it's often communities that are paying companies to come to locate in their area. But in talent-rich communities, it's the companies that are paying communities so that they can be there. And this is already happening in places like New York and San Francisco. I mean, the cost of doing business in these places is, you'd say, is prohibitive. And yet, what the businesses are interested in is simply the ROI. Share with you another innovation case study that was done through Size Up LBI. And so what's the standard practice? We focus on the big businesses, but I said, no, small business is big business. When you look at the GDP of the US, it's about 50% small business, about 50% big business. But at your local level, it's the small businesses that provide even more. And the reason is because they're local, their owners are here, they recycle the dollars, it doesn't leave the community. So they matter, and it doesn't matter, there's many different studies that have come out, but they all say the same thing. Local small businesses are tremendous generators to your local economy. And if you're interested in creating jobs, you only need to look one place. Small businesses. This is data that comes out of the recession from 2001 to 2006. 100% of all the net new jobs came from small businesses. Large businesses actually lost jobs. You say, okay, well, what about this recession? Both in total job creation and net job creation, it was small businesses that bounced back. They're resilient. And small businesses may know how to make clothes, they may know how, the dentist may know how to fill cavities, and they may know how to make furniture. But when it comes time to actually grow and run a business and have the insights to be successful, it's challenging. Large companies can hire very expensive consultants or have internal staff to be able to do research to find their path to success. But when small businesses try and do that, they hit the barrier because they don't have access to the money to do this or the resources. So there are ways to break through this, and this is my teaser. I'm not going to tell you the end of this story, except to say that you are very fortunate to have a partner like Florida Power and Light. They're going to be making an announcement and bringing tools to help small businesses across the entire state, and that's going to be coming this year. So come back next year and learn more about that. So now I'd like to talk about innovation in businesses and organizations. Just by show of hands, how many people here, private sector, from the business world? So a lot of, really pay attention here. This is the part that will hopefully change your life. There are two reactions you want in your innovation strategy. You want wow and you want uh-oh. You want wow from your customers and you want uh-oh from your competitors. Am I right? So the traditional way of running a business is, you can provide, high value at high cost, or maybe low value at low cost, and you try to improve along this curve. You try and push it out farther, incrementally. And so what's really happening there is you're focusing on sustaining your innovation. There's an alternative to this model, and that's about breakthrough innovation. Saying, I reject the model of incremental improvement. I'm looking for the big breakthrough. So let's talk about the myths and realities of innovation. The first myth of innovation is that innovation comes from individual genius. The reality is that innovation more often comes from the right network of people and teams bringing ideas together. So who would be one of the greatest American innovators of all time? Thomas Edison. Yet, his innovation happened when he was at the Menlo Park lab. When he left, that was the end of his great innovations. It was because he was with other innovators in teams and they worked together. Isn't it special? Because this doesn't happen again across the whole country. This organization is called Team Volusia. It happens as a team. Here's another myth. Innovation's about invention and creating the newest, latest thing. But the reality is innovation often comes from recombination, pairing old ideas with new approaches, or in new domains, or applying new technology to traditional approaches. So what's a Post-it note? It's weak glue plus a new use. What's eBay? It's an auction plus new technology. Here's another myth. Innovation comes from brilliant flashes of creativity. The reality is brilliant flashes are great, but they can't be replicated. Innovation efforts within organizations need to be systematized with the right discipline and methodologies. One of the great experts in innovation is Larry Keeley, and he says, if I took a platoon of Marines and put them against a group of LA Design Center students, that platoon of Marines would out-innovate the design students every time. The real frontier to innovation is not to think of it as a creative exercise, but to think about it being disciplined in using the right methods. Those who have military backgrounds, you understand what I'm talking about. The other side of innovation is orthodoxies. And orthodoxies are the unstated assumptions that go unquestioned. This is the entrenched wisdom that no one thinks to change. So tell me, what is a bookstore? Somebody describe to me what a bookstore is. This is the participatory part. What? Store with books, yeah, describe it a little bit more. Aisles. Shelves, right? So this is what you guys just described. Yes, this is a bookstore. There are shelves, there are books. Until somebody said, that's not a bookstore. This is a bookstore, it's a warehouse. And books are what get delivered right to your home. Until somebody else said, that's not a bookstore. This is a bookstore. And this is a book. Radical transformation and innovation from challenging our core ideas about what things are. All of us are prisoners to one degree or another of our experience. So there's different types of orthodoxies. The first is internal. It's embedded in our company culture. It's the hardest to change because, in fact, this is what made our companies successful. So why would we ever change what made us great? So for example, Ford Motor, they had a culture, their orthodoxy is you do not ask for help, you only discuss good news. But Ford Motor started declining. And it wasn't until they realized we have to talk about what's not working and work together on that and not be ashamed of the things where we're having challenges. Now Ford is doing well. The other orthodoxy is external, and this is what markets believe. And industries believe. And this is how outsiders can come in and completely disrupt them. If you look in the airline industry, what was the model? Hub and spoke. How could it possibly be anything else? Southwest said, no, we don't buy that at all. We're just about point to point. And our view on customer service is not about first class. It's about bags of peanuts, and you can take it or leave it. And people took it. They did not accept the model. So how do you innovate and change orthodoxies in your own organizations? First, you need to be open-minded and intentional about challenging these things. If you have new or young people in your organization, they're some of the best folks who will do this. You need to also ask why not and do that regularly. Don't just find the problem, find the solution. It's so easy to say no. It's so easy to say all the reasons why it's wrong. Try and find the reasons why it'll work, even if it doesn't at the end. That exercise is worth doing. You also need to look outside of your industry and market and be a credible heretic. There is a very good reason why you are doing what you are doing. It may have led to your success, but it's the leaders. Changing orthodoxies is top down. It's the leaders that have to create this change. And you also need to recognize innovators. You need to reward them for failing. What? No, we only reward success at our organization. But in fact, failure is very common. So how do you really do it? First, for each orthodoxy in your business or your organization, why does it exist? Why is it hard to eradicate? What are cases or examples from any industry that could show us a different way? And what would it look like if you flipped it? So let's actually try this morning. I checked in last night to a fantastic hotel, the Hilton. I woke up to the most beautiful sunrise ever. Guess what time I could check in there? Anyone? What time is the earliest I can check in? 3 o'clock. What time do I have to be out of there today? 11 a.m. But what if I don't have to leave town until 5 p.m.? Or what if I got there before 3 p.m.? What do I do? What do? You guys travel. You wait in the lobby. That's because that's awesome. experience. So great. But why? Why does this happen? Why do those have to be the times? There's always a good reason. So they can clean the rooms, turn over. But you see the problem that we have here. Like, it doesn't work with my schedule. Could you imagine if, when I got to the airport, I went to rent my car, and they said, yes, Mr. Ubalde, your car will be ready for you at 3 p.m., but it's 8 a.m. You gotta wait till 3 p.m. because we gotta move them around, we gotta clean them. The hotel industry is ripe for disruption. Who's gonna be the first to accommodate me, the customer? You, the customer. I said, but that's the way we've always done it. I'll give you another one. I go to the grocery store. I have 3 kids. I can't remember a time I have ever not spent $200 at the grocery store, as long as I've had kids. And so I have my very full, grocery cart, and I'm walking down, it's full, and then some kid grabs a candy bar and a Pepsi or Coke, and they get in the express lane. And they're out before I am. So what are they doing? What's the grocery store doing? They're rewarding their worst customer, and they are penalizing their best customer. There should be a sign there. Dads with 3 kids who spend a lot of money, and no line whatsoever. Why? Because we're terrific customers. We aren't even trying to hold a coupon, or we just want to get out of there. So you see, there's opportunity for innovation in everything that you do. And it's obvious, it's just not yet obvious until you become the innovator. Now, innovation probably appears incredibly risky, and I want to assure you it is absolutely not. It is, in fact, not risky at all. It's the only way to success. You think about when I showed you that pyramid of the do somethings, they have no chance of success. Here's the thing you need to know about innovation, is that failure is a certainty, and you need to be okay with it. Soichiro Honda says success is 99% failure. I'm from Silicon Valley. We fail all the time. In fact, you can get new venture funding because you failed at your last company because you learned something. The trick here is you need to fail fast and you need to fail forward. Can you guys be okay with that? The other thing is this issue of motivation. Sometimes focusing on failure is the wrong motivation. So this guy is paddling along and he's probably thinking, I don't want to die. I gotta paddle faster. I gotta paddle faster. I don't want to die. But is that the right? Is fear? Fear works, but is it a higher level thinking? No. I gotta live. I got something to live for. I gotta paddle faster. You may be questioning whether innovation is right for you. You don't have to accept it. But the world is going to continue to innovate and change whether you do or don't. That's not your option. And so you need to ask yourself the question, will your community and organization be better off if you are leaders or followers? I'm asking for your help. We need new ideas. We need innovators. And the reason is very simple, because in every community in America, there are businesses that are barely holding on. They're not sure how they're going to make their next payroll. They're not sure about the future. They need your help. The stakes are incredibly high. And winning is going to be easier than ever. And the reason that winning is going to be easier than others, other economic development organizations are going to resist change. Other businesses are going to resist disruption. And they're going to hope that retirement comes faster than the change that is going to overwhelm them. If you're retiring today, fine. But if you're in this for the long haul, you need to engage if you want to succeed. The other thing that's important to remember is this issue that oftentimes business, economic development is incredibly hard. and you want to give up. But I assure you, the moment when you are ready to quit is usually the moment right before the miracle happens. Am I right? Have you felt this in your life? Don't give up. Try new things. Make mistakes. Suffer public failures. Yes, I'm talking in this direction. Emerge on the other side with success. If you are afraid, just know that you are in good company. Michael Jordan, cut from his high school basketball team, locked himself in his room and cried. The Beatles, rejected by Decca Recordings, saying, "We don't like their sound, they have no future in show business." Steve Jobs, at 30, kicked out of his own company. He was depressed as a result. Walt Disney, fired from a newspaper for lacking imagination and having no original ideas. Oprah Winfrey, demoted from her job as a news anchor because she wasn't fit for television. Albert Einstein couldn't speak until almost 4. His teacher said he would never amount to much. Richard Branson, Student Magazine failed after he dropped out of school to start it, so he started what? Virgin Music. Or J.K. Rowling, the Harry Potter books rejected by numerous publishers for reasons like it was far too long for a children's book, or because children's books never make any money. And by the way, and you might not know this, when she started, she was a divorced single mom on welfare. I don't think there's anybody in this room who is a single mom on welfare. You have so many more opportunities, and yet the success you could have could be greater than all of these people. I mean that. If you've never failed, you have never tried anything new. The other thing to know is the easy and safe paths are already taken. If they were, they wouldn't require leaders like you. So don't go down those paths. They're quite crowded. Change is not necessary, of course, because survival is optional. I'd like to end with some closing advice. It's something I've been thinking about. It may seem like a non sequitur, but it keeps coming back to my mind, this issue of innovation. And that's that we really need to question how hard we're really working at creating innovative change. If you are like me, you wake up in the morning, you go into the office, you work like hell, you go late hours. By the time you get home, you are just bone weary, exhausted. You couldn't have given any more than you've possibly given, and you feel good about it. But I think we need to question that. Do we really know what it means to have commitment, to change our lives, to go farther than we thought was possible? Do we know what our limits are? Have we pushed them? And we all think about the barriers that we experience, but do we really know what barriers are? Do we know what it's like to live in a life of barriers and yet still be able to achieve at such a high level? Only those that risk going too far can possibly find out how far one can go. Thank you so much.